Hey everyone, I'm Isaac and welcome back to Isaac Reviews 2024. These past few years, Sony and Columbia Pictures have become increasingly more reliant on the Spider-Man franchise to turn them a profit, but that's generated some mixed results for them. They certainly did well with both his MCU trilogy and the Spider-Verse duology, but when we look at all the spin-off films, well, that's a much different story. Until recently, they made 4 of these films, and 2 of them were absolute disasters both critically and financially. But what about the other 2? Well, those 2 films were Venom and its sequel, Let There Be Carnage, and although the reviews from critics were largely mixed, they both turned a solid profit at the box office. But what did I think of them? And they were movies, I guess. Sure, they had some great CGI and action scenes and a few decent moments of comedy, but in terms of their writing, pacing, characters, and how they handled their villains, they left a lot to be desired. But like I said, they did really well at the box office. What's even more impressive is that Let There Be Carnage was actually able to crack the $500 million mark during the COVID-19 pandemic, around the same time that movie theaters were slowly starting to get back to where they were before. So 3 years later, Eddie Brock and his symbiote buddy Venom are back for one last big screen adventure with the aptly titled Venom: The Last Dance. And before it came out, I wasn't too sure what to expect from it. And after seeing it a week before its wide release here in Japan, I would consider it the strongest of the trilogy, and yet it's still pretty mid. It takes place sometime after Let There Be Carnage, where Eddie and Venom are on the run from the law following the chaos in San Francisco. But when Venom's homeworld begins invading Earth to kill the 2 of them, they'll have to make a devastating decision to save each other from what could happen to them. Like the previous 2 Venoms, the biggest problems with The Last Dance are the writing and pacing, as well as how they handle the villain. Once again, they brought in a super badass villain from the comics, only to barely do anything with him whatsoever. I'm not kidding, Noel only shows up for like 5 minutes of this 90-minute movie. He doesn't even show up to fight Venom during the climax. Like, how awesome would it have been to see these 2 characters battling each other on screen? I also think it would have been nice if they actually gave him more of a presence in the film to justify adding him, because with some slight retooling to the script, he could have been removed from the film entirely without changing anything. As for the actual villain that we get, Rex Strickland, he's also pretty underwhelming. Chiwetel Ejiofor gave a decent performance, I suppose, but his character is just a generic military guy who wants to kill the alien for his own personal reasons, only to have a sudden change of heart near the end. The rest of the new characters aren't much better, largely being one note and only really serving to move the lead character's story forward in some way. But speaking of Eddie and Venom, how were they in this one? And they were fine, I guess. Thankfully, Venom is much less of a whiny bitch in this one than he was in Let There Be Carnage, and his dynamic with Eddie provided some of the better jokes in the film. Nothing absolutely hilarious or anything, but it did manage to get a few decent chuckles out of me. As for the visuals, like the previous 2 films, this one looks good as well. Sure, there were a couple dips in the quality of the CGI, and the score was kinda forgettable, but otherwise the visuals were solid across the board. The CGI overall was pretty good for the most part, the cinematography was nice, and there were some great action scenes. They took full advantage of the movie's fast pacing and used the new locations in really creative ways, all while being well choreographed and consistently exciting. I'll also admit that The Last Dance does a nice job serving as a conclusion to the Venom franchise. It wraps up Eddie and Venom's stories in a satisfying way that honestly made for a wholesome and heartwarming ending. Sure, this might not be the last we see of these characters if the post-credit scenes are anything to go off of, but if this is truly the swan song of the series, then it was an okay enough note to go out on. With that being said, Venom: The Last Dance is still not that good of a movie. Even if it has some great action scenes and a nice conclusion, that doesn't save how jank the writing was or how royally they screwed up the development of its overarching antagonist. My recommendation for this one ultimately comes down to your opinion on the first 2 Venom movies. If you liked them, then I have a strong feeling you'll like this one as well. But if you didn't like them, this one probably won't be all that different, and you might be better off just waiting for it to come out on streaming. Even if I'd consider this the best Venom film and the best Spider-Man spin-off film so far, I don't know how much of a compliment that truly is, especially since it's only a 6 out of 10 movie as far as I'm concerned. Hopefully Kraven the Hunter can be better, but I honestly doubt it'll surprise me that much. Next time, I'll try to get my review of Conclave out as I focus on all the stuff going on in my life like school, applying for college, and working on other videos. But I will say that it's a great movie and I look forward to talking about it very soon. Anyways, thanks for watching this episode of Isaac Reviews 2024, subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you all later.